Our next news is about Boris Johnson, that former minister joins calls for Prime Minister to resign. I personally forgive and forget Boris Johnson. I think he's a good Prime Minister. Yeah, he made these huge mistakes of judgment, thinking that this won't be found out probably. But I think he should stay. I understand people who think he should go, but I personally support him. I voted for him. I think he's a good prime minister. He's done great with lockdowns, and I know he broke rules, it's wrong, but he moved Britain forward. He helped Britain to beat the virus. More or less we are coping. Hopefully we won't have any more lockdowns. He organized a good vaccination campaign that 80% of adult population had the vaccine, and 60% of children as well. So I want him to stay, but I will understand if he will have to go, if majority vote will tell him to go. Another Conservative MP has called for Boris Johnson to resign as the turmoil at 10 Downing Street continues. Former Minister Nick Jib is the latest story to submit a letter of no confidence in a row over events held at Number 10 during lockdown. He said his constituents were furious that Number 10 had been flagrantly disregarding the COVID rules they set. I understand people's feeling. I understand it was wrong and a big, huge mistake from Boris Johnson and people who broke the rules, his colleagues. But Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries insists that the vast majority of Conservative MPs supported Mr. Johnson. I am one of them. I'm one of citizens who support him. As I say, I agree he made a huge mistake, but I think on this occasion he could survive. He's got good chances. Meanwhile, the Daily Mirror reports a photograph of Mr. Johnson holding a beer at a birthday gathering has been handed to police investigated COVID breaches. The paper said the picture was one of 300 submitted to Metropolitan Police investigation into 12 alleged gatherings, 12, and was thought to have been taken by Prime Minister's official photographer, who is funded by the taxpayer. So it was an official photo. They just how you on this official photo, taking a photo when the rules when it's not allowed doing it gatherings, and official photo is just such a mistake. It said it showed the Prime Minister holding a can of beer at an event in Number 10's Cabinet Room in June 2020, alongside Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who was holding a soft drink. Well done, Rishi Sunak, for having an alcohol-free drink. I'm for that. I'm against if alcohol tiny bit, and really 2-3 times a year maximum. For me, I am against. And understand everyone's different. At that time, gathering of more than 2 people inside were banned by law. Yeah, only 2 people inside, and there were 12. No, 12 gatherings, but how many people? More than 2. It comes at the end of a difficult week to Prime Minister, which has seen 5 number 10 aides to resign and the publication of initial findings of Sue Gray report into events at Downing Street while COVID restrictions were in place. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, Mr. Gibb, who was served under the 3 prime ministers and who lost his position as schools minister in Boris Johnson's reshuffle last September, he said that his constituents were furious about the double standards. I agree, it was wrong. And that to restore trust, we need to change the prime minister, he thinks. He said COVID restrictions imposed by Mr. Johnson were flagrantly disregarded in Downing Street, and NPM Prime Minister was inaccurate when in December he told the House of Commons there was no party. So he was inaccurate. Some argue that eating a few canapes with a glass of Prosecco is hardly a reason to resign. I personally agree. Yeah, a little snack. But telling the truth matters, and nowhere more than and nowhere more. So then, in the House of Commons, we're like a court of law. Truth must be told regardless of the personal consequences, he wrote. Mr. Gibb, I don't know, Gibb or Gibb, probably Gibb. Mr. Gibb said a fellow backbench Tory Aaron Bell had struck a chord when he criticized Mr. Johnson over lockdown parties earlier this week. Okay, so must be quick. So Aaron Bell struck the chord. Aaron Bell started all of this, yeah, for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Bell had asked the Prime Minister if he took him for a fool for following the rules himself, including not hugging his family at his grandmother's funeral or going for a cup of tea after the service. I agree, it was really frustrating and wrong feeling like that. You can't visit you can't really hug your family at grandmother's funeral and have a cup of tea, and these parties were going on. I agree, it's really sad for Mr. Gibbs. On Friday, Mr. Bell and a breach of on Friday, Mr. Bell said the breach of trust over the rule breaking and how it had been handled made Prime Minister position untenable. As he confirmed, he had also submitted a letter of no confidence to Sir Graham Brady, the chair of 1922 Committee of Backbench MPs. At least 54 MPs need to write to Sir Graham to trigger a vote of Prime Minister's leadership of the party. Other Conservative MP are expected to consider whether to put in their letters over the weekend. So this weekend they're deciding. Mr. Johnson has written to all Tory MPs to say he is committed to improving the way 10 Downing Street works. So he wrote to all of them. We hope. I personally hope he will stay. I know there are many people who want him to go, but I believe he will stay. But we will see. We'll see. See you later, guys. Ну, это о том, что у премьер-министра было 12 вечеринок во время локдаунов, как бы собраний, когда нельзя было собираться, и он нарушил правила. Вот сейчас решают, может ли он остаться премьер-министром Британии. Наверное, на следующей недельке решится. Next week will tell us what happens. See you later. Bye-bye. До встречи, ребятки.